Alright, live streaming event begins at noon. It's 11:59. How's the audio? How's the video? It's noontime. Time for another live streaming event with me, Rickmiracle. On this August 10th, 2018, Dave says, "Looks good, Rick." Thank you very much, Dave. Friday, noontime. So I was pondering what to talk about today. And sometimes we just don't know what to believe. What is the truth? So anyways, I was reading this book, Galactic Diplomacy, Getting to Yes with E.T. Galactic Diplomacy. Michael Sala, PhD, picture of the United Nations building. Galactic Diplomacy, Getting to Yes with E.T. So what do you think? The ETs, do they exist? If they do exist, are they really from Venus or Andromeda, the Pleiades, or another dimension? Or is it just a deception? Demons, angels, spiritual beings. We humans are spiritual beings. People have had out-of-body experiences, after-death experiences, prophets, psychics, channelers, mediums. Seems to be a lot of clear evidence that we are spiritual beings in these biological bodies. And I live out in the country, 15 minutes from the city. And so I see a lot of animals. In the summertime, springtime, a lot of birds are hatching eggs, bluebirds, other birds, squirrels, rabbits, deer. And all that life forms, those life forms, they seem to have some kind of intelligence. Some kind of, you can tell they have anxieties. They fight amongst one another for food or other reasons. Some animals eat other animals. They raise their small little hatchlings, broods. And other birds seem to flock around and watch the little fledglings, the baby birds, take flight for the first time. So you can tell they have programming in their DNA to be like other living entities around the planet, like humans. And like the animal kingdom, with some seriously dangerous animals, lions, crocodiles, alligators, eagles, that prey on other animals, we have humans that prey on other humans. So being awake is kind of important to reality. So what if there are these other beings? Are they preying on us? Are there benevolent beings, aliens? Or are there malevolent, evil, sinister? And have they been here all along? So as I said, lots of questions about reality. What do you believe? What can you believe? Why would a guy write a book called Galactic Diplomacy? What kind of politics and negotiations are going on with beings from someplace else, wherever they are? So I thought I'd read from this a little bit and throw my 2 cents in here. This will be a live streaming event, but concerning this book, 1 hour event, and I usually make my book reviews 2 hour events. So after I do this live streaming event on this book, I will go back to this book and read the preceding 12 pages prior to what I'm reading here, and put the two videos together for a regular book review in my series, Freemasonry and Satanism. getting two things done at once, mixing my live streaming media and press releases and document reviews with my book reviews. So when I'm doing these live streaming events, if you haven't noticed, my production of book reviews has slowed down. It's only so many hours in the day. So I'm going to start out on a topic that's kind of interesting, intriguing, makes you wonder what the heck is going on, what's real. Something called the hollow earth. So why would the hollow earth topic be in a book called Galactic Diplomacy by a PhD educated person, Michael Saylor? I assume he has a PhD. I assume he's probably competent, intelligent. Should we believe what he publishes? And the many other books I have. All right, The Hollow Earth, page 92. According to William Reed, Phantom of the Poles, 1906. So that's a book called Phantom of the Poles. I've got several books here. World Beyond the Poles by F. Amandio Giannani. And I've been reading these books over the years. This one here is more like a fictional book, a story about Hollow Planet. Some people, when they write books, to get past any kind of documentation and references, they take a topic and they make a story out of it. On the back of this book, do we truly know what is taking place on this planet? Have we explored and discovered everything there is to find on Earth? What if everything we've been taught since childhood was nothing more than a careful scheme to keep us in the dark about what is actually happening around us? How apropos is this conversation on the back of this book? Daniel Morrison is about to find out there is a lot more going on in our planet than is let on, but more importantly, he is going to find out why. So I guess that sums up what I've been doing for quite a while, trying to find out WTH, what the heck is going on? I have collected these books over the years. Here's an interesting one. A Journey to the Earth's Interior. Have the Poles Really Been Discovered? Marshall Gardner. Revised, enlarged, profusely illustrated. 1920. 1920. I'd like to flip them open and see if there's any pictures. Seems like a lot of facts in here. Some kind of advertisement on the back of this book. Is it true? The underground world of Supermen, discovered by Admiral Byrd under the North Pole, kept secret by the U.S. government. 1920. Gods with Amnesia, Subterranean Worlds of Inner Earth by Robert Scepter. Probably saying these people's names wrong. So again, what are we to believe? Did German U-boats really go down into Antarctica? There's a lot of this in the news these days, even during the presidential election with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Apparently, a lot of religious leaders, including John Kerry and others, have made visits during those times to the Antarctic. Apparently, some kind of mysterious thing is going on down there, or so they would have us believe. There's another book I have. The Greatest Lie on Earth. Proof that our world is not a moving globe. The Greatest Lie on Earth by a well-respected author, Edward Hendry. So what are we to believe? The Smoky God, or A Voyage to the Inner World, Willis George Emerson. Willis George Emerson wrote The Smoky God in 1908. Wow, this has been going on a while. It is subtitled A Voyage to the Inner Earth. Olaf Jansen was a Norwegian sailor who sailed his sloop, big sailboat, through the entrance near the North Pole to the Earth's interior. This novel is an early example of an underground civilization. Jansen spent 2 years living with the inhabitants in a network of subterranean colonies. A smoky central sun lighted the world. Their capital city was believed to be the original Garden of Eden. What are we to believe? Another book I have. Is this the greatest discovery in history? The Hollow Earth. Raymond Bernard, PhD. Can you explain the following? It says on the back of this book. Why does one find tropical seeds, plants, and trees floating in the fresh water of icebergs? Why do millions of tropical birds and animals go further north in the wintertime? If it is not hollow and warm inside the earth at the poles, then why does colored pollen color the earth for thousands of miles? Why is it warmer at the poles than 600 or 1,000 miles away from them? Why does the north wind in the Arctic get warmer as one sails north beyond the 70-degree latitude? And one more interesting topic here. The Hebrew prophets were right. Weather modifications and UFOs, and other New World Order deceptions by Stephen Wright. Weather modifications and UFOs. So are aliens or other beings bent on depopulating the planet or turning it into a new reality of masters and slaves, returning to some kind of golden age? And I thought about the fact, talking about why I do what I do. Making these videos, collecting these books, reading these books, doing my research since 2005, closing in on 15 years. Making videos closing in 5 years. September, next month. Hundreds and hundreds of hours of published videos, documentaries, press releases, book reviews, and a ton of material, boxes and boxes of press release and other research material. Watch thousands and thousands of videos, magazines, hundreds and hundreds of those, and over 1,000 books in my office on all kinds of topics. Why did I do that? Why do some people do what they do? Why are people watching this video now? Did you ever wonder, is there something more mysterious going on? So I'm going to read from this one page of this book, Weather Modification and UFOs, and see if maybe there's an answer here. Maybe there's more to reality than we know. Watchmen, pillow prophets, and pabulum preachers, however you say that word. Pabulum preachers? This portion of this chapter is directed specifically to the Christian Church of America. Since 1972, I have never heard a teaching on biblical watchmen, like some kind of watch people from God's world, angels. It has always been assumed that watchmen and prophets are interchangeable ministries. Around 4 years ago, I began to see and understand that this is not the case. True biblical watchmen are those whom God has raised up to watch out for the body of Christ. They do exactly that. They watch. God has anointed them to see and understand things that most people miss completely. And don't get me wrong here, I'm not trying to say I'm some kind of God's appointed watchman. But I was reading this and I thought, why do people do what they do? Why do some people spend a good portion of their life seeing that something is wrong and reporting on it, doing the best they can? Why? Why do so many people ignore all this weirdness going on? Why does it seem like 85% of the population are oblivious, apathetic, ignorant, probably thinking ignorance is bliss? That one picture I showed a couple videos back where this gay pride parade and this gay tall man was in the picture, and on his sign it said, "I bet hell is fabulous." Is there something called deranged thinking? Last year, a fellow minister asked me if much of what I find out just seems to fall right into my hands. And I tried to walk away from this investigation numerous times. I got better things to do, like go earn a living and vacation and traveling. But for some reason, things kept falling in my lap, like these books and magazines and other things. It was like somebody waving it in front of my face. And I look up and go, okay, I'll look into it. Even prior to my beginning my research, I had some psychic experiences, and people would be a little spooked out, freaked out. I would mention somebody's name we hadn't talked to in 10 years, and boom, the phone would ring, or we'd walk around the corner and they would be standing there. Strange things in our reality. So this fellow minister asked this author if much of what I find just seems to fall right into my lap. I replied yes, and inquired as to why he had asked that particular question. The minister replied, "I have to ask the same question of others who do what you do. And they all give the same answer. This knowledge and information just seems to come to them without them making much of an effort to find it." Doesn't it say in the Bible, "Seek and ye shall find, ask and ye shall receive"? So I think when you do focus your mind towards trying to find out things, you trigger some kind of response from the universal physics laws of the universe. Something like that. Laws of attraction, laws of repulsion, whatever. Karma, soul growth, things I've talked about in videos. And this guy says, "I believe this happened because God has called some to be watchmen. The watchmen of the Bible were natural men who were positioned on the physical walls surrounding the cities, waiting for any enemy, and that might threaten their city." So it might behoove a lot of us to wonder why we become aware of things, and what should we do about it, talking to other people, if the enemy is approaching. If you think this New World Order globalism, and you believe in the philosophy on that gay man's sign, that you believe hell is fabulous, maybe you don't want to get involved. But if you're a human being and you care about the planet like the animals care about their own offspring, and other animals seem to participate protecting other live animals. So if the animal kingdom can do it, and even the plant kingdom to some degree seems to protect itself and protect other plants, has defense mechanisms, are some of us, we humans, so much out of tune with reality that we can't see what's going on? And is there just too much confusion with the UFOs, aliens, global world order, New World Order, Zionism, the Kabbalah, Church of Satan, the fastest growing church, the satanic symbols, Super Bowl halftime shows, Emmys, Grammys, American Idol, the European version, Eurovision, tunnel openings, and so much more. Shiva, the goddess of destruction, projected onto the Empire State Building. 9/11, World War I, World War II, meant to change the world, to kill off certain people, probably seize a lot of assets. If you see what's going on, shouldn't more people do something about it? It just boggles my mind that people will look into stuff or watch videos and just enjoy the search and the discovery, but not want to share the information with other people, or try to get people to wake up and look at the chemtrails being dumped in the sky intentionally, toxins, poisons, maybe biologicals, microwave systems coming online that are obviously dangerous, directed energy weapons, political actions being taken by presidents and leaders. Anyways, so now I'll start reading from this about the hollow earth, and part of the conversation in this book pertains to all the things I just talked about. In 1692, an English astronomer, Sir Edmund Halley, proposed a detailed scientific theory of the inner Earth. 1692. Being a series of concentric shells that could support life. In 1818, an enterprising American infantry captain, John Cleves Sims, Symmes, took Halley's theory to heart and proposed an expedition to the poles where he reasoned the main passageways to the hollow earth must lie. He issued the following circular. To all the world, I declare that the earth is hollow, habitable within, containing a number of solid concentric spheres, one within the other, and it is open at the poles 12 to 16 degrees. I pledge my life in support of this truth, and am ready to explore the hollow if the world will support and aid me in this undertaking. So unfortunately, the resources and technology did not exist to launch the expedition Sims desired until early in the 20th century, the 1900s. The idea of an advanced underground civilization was popularized by Edward Bulwer Lytton in 1870 with the publication of the Vril, The Power of the Coming Race. I have that book. And remember, Hitler was into the Vril Society and the Thule Society. You think there's a connection? Apparently. His description of an advanced underground civilization that could be traced to the ancient Atlantis was accepted by many as accurate. What fascinated many was the description of Vril, V-R-I-L, force used as a psychic ability to control advanced technology. There have been subsequently many published books giving accounts of the alleged physical visits or psychic journeys to the subterranean civilizations that used advanced technology. Psychic journey, so leaving your body and going to see these places. And then, of course, I've been talking about a lot about channelers who are channeling material from some unseen entities, calling themselves Archangel Michael, or Lee Carroll's Cryon, or Esther Hicks as Abraham, or Barbara Marciniak's Palladians, and so many more. Jane Roberts, Seth. What are we dealing with? Are these good questions? There have been subsequently many published books giving accounts of the alleged physical visits or psychic journeys to these subterranean civilizations that used advanced technologies. Many of these stories involve individuals making journeys through hidden underground passages where they mysteriously encounter intraterrestrial beings, not extraterrestrials from out there, but intraterrestrial beings. One of those involved in a Swede, Olaf Jensen, I showed you his book, who claims to have traveled into the hollow earth and spent 2 years completing his long journey. He returned to face ridicule and imprisonment in a mental asylum for his incredible story. Just before his death in 1908, Jensen told his story to Willis George Emerson, who claimed the old man told him just before he died that the place was inhabited by a race of fair-skinned giants. The men were all 12 feet tall, and the women a couple feet shorter, I guess about 10 feet tall. Both sexes wore embroidered tunics and sandals on their feet. They were mild-tempered, dignified, and lived for over 500 years. According to Jensen, they also possessed a mysterious power, much greater than electricity, which they used to drive their machinery and equipment. Jensen's story gives credence to Bulwer's account of an underground civilization that uses advanced technology through the mysterious Vril force. And again, I'm reminding that we've got information that the Hitler regime were into the communicating with the Vril or using Vril forces and the Thule Society to create their own spaceship and advanced submarines, planes, and rockets. And after World War II, of course, the USA and other world governments seized some of that scientific documentation, and the scientists and others involved brought them to the United States, for example, Area 51, Project Montauk, and probably a lot of other underground bases and secret black laboratory operations, and continued this research for some malevolent purpose as the global world order, new world order. Remember who controls our world, derived from the Illuminati, banksters, Zionists, Freemasons, Rosicrucian, a lot of people into this mystery religion that appears to be satanic and luciferic. Fallen angels, Anunnaki, whatever you want to call it, Archons, Palladians, gray aliens, reptilians. What are we to believe? So what I do is I read these books and make videos and maybe sort it out a little bit at a time. Paying attention to my comments? Thank you. Jensen's story gives credence to Bulwer's account of the underground civilization that uses advanced technology through the mysterious Vril force. And as impressive the stories and theories of the Hollow Earth are, they would remain largely speculation if it were not for the exploits of one of the world's most famous polar explorers, Rear Admiral Richard Byrd. I have a book by him. I think I have some other books about him. And you can go on YouTube and see some of the videos about Admiral Byrd. But as you know, I try to buy old books. Byrd Discovery. Big, thick book. I haven't read it all. Discovery Fall Journals. (1935). Illustrations, maps, Richard Evelyn Byrd. Looks like down there in North Arctic or South Arctic. Like I said, I haven't read this. So what is going on? The fireside philosophers. Looks like they're down there in the cold weather. The pressure at torchlight. So anyways, I have some fascinating books in my collection. Back to this book. Alright, so the whole topic would remain largely speculation if it were not for the exploits of one of the world's most famous polar explorers, Rear Admiral Richard Byrd. In 1926, Richard Byrd embarked on the first of his famous flights over the polar regions. His log entry for what he saw over the North Pole presaged what he was later to discover, so proceeded. Some words I'm just not used to saying. Presaged. Time and direction became topsy-turvy as we neared the pole. And here and there, instead of pressing together of the ice fields, there was a separation, leaving a water lead showing a greenish blue against the white of the snow. Once, for a moment, I mistook a distant, vague, low-lying cloud formation for the mountain peaks of a faraway land. Byrd's discovery of a greenish-blue water lead was a surprise, and his intriguing reference to a faraway land hinted at what he would later discover. Byrd's success led him to being promoted to Rear Admiral and significant finances for further polar expeditions. So the government, the money people, were behind this. And who were the money people back then? That would have been the Illuminati, the Morgan, the Schiffs, the Rockefeller, the Rothschilds. They were behind this. Yes? No? Who controlled the money since 1913? U.S. Federal Reserve, created in secret, Christmas holiday. The Illuminati, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds. Senator Hyde at Jekyll Island, 1913. Go look it up. So what are they trying to find out? What was Hitler involved in World War II? And here's Byrd going down there in 1929 prior to World War II. Just makes you think. All right. In 1929, he led an expedition to the South Pole and once again flew over one of the Earth's poles. He described his first 1929 flight is well known and described in his books. Less well known is a second flight, the existence of which was quickly removed from the official records. According to the F.A. Giannani's book, World Beyond the Poles, a newsreel showing what was discovered on both flights appeared in 1929. That year, a newsreel could be seen in American cinemas. So this was popular stuff, and you could go to the movies and see these videos, which described both flights. And you probably can find those videos on YouTube. I've watched some of them. It also showed newspaper photographs of the land beyond the pole with its mountains, trees, rivers, and large animal identified as a mammoth. Today, this newsreel apparently does not exist, although hundreds of people remember viewing it. Intrigued by the reference to the missing newsreel of Byrd's second Antarctic flight, Alex McClellan sought to confirm the existence of this newsreel and received the following letter from Miss Dorothy E. Graffin of New York. Reference: Admiral Byrd's flight to the South Pole. So this guy was researching this, advertising for anybody who had seen the video. And what he saw in the interior of the Earth at the South Pole. Nobody ever mentions the documentary film which Byrd took on this flight and was shown in motion picture theaters throughout the United States soon after Byrd's return home. My sister and I saw this in White Plains, New York. Byrd narrated the film himself and exclaimed in wonder as he approached a warm water lake surrounded by conifers with a large animal moving amongst the trees. Byrd's discovery of warm water lakes, conifers, and a large animal at the South Pole had the effect that this information, though initially released, was eventually removed from the public realm. So they want to keep this information from the public. Meanwhile, when President Donald Trump was getting elected, a lot of famous world religious leaders, including John Kerry and others, made these pilgrimages to Antarctica. David Wilcock, Corey Good, and many others make videos about these topics and describe some of the findings, true or not, of huge flash-frozen UFO alien civilizations. What are we to believe? Startling testimony for the existence of subterranean civilization came from Admiral Byrd soon after the completion of his Navy expedition to the Antarctic region after the Second World War in early 1947. Operation High Jump began in December 1946 and comprised a fleet of Navy warships, an aircraft carrier, and almost 5,000 men. It was scheduled to last 6 to 8 months. So I wonder if you get the Freedom of Information Act and send it to the government, could you get some information on this expedition? That'd be fascinating to see what they replied. There was speculation that Byrd's actual mission was to lead a secret military expedition to find any Nazi base hidden in the Antarctic. Subsequent casualties and setbacks led to the abrupt end of the expedition in February. Admiral Byrd then spoke at press conferences in South America of many fatalities and that the U.S. would be attacked by flying objects that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Interesting enough, I have a couple other books here. This was a famous author who apparently had some close encounters of the first kind, meetings with the aliens. George Adamski, Flying Saucers Have Landed. Again, I ask, what are we supposed to believe? I always like to find the pictures in these books. The following 3 photographs were taken immediately after this one on March 5th, 1951, at 10:30 a.m. by George Adamski. Only one scout has begun to leave. This book was published 1955. It looks like somebody got it as a gift in 1959. Other book I have, got plenty of books behind me on these 2 top rows are UFO, alien abduction, etc. books. Over 100. Underground alien bases, flying saucers, come from inside the Earth. So what do you think? You think there's a hole inside the Earth? A lot of documentation about underground bases all over the planet. A lot of videos you can watch. Dulce, New Mexico. Security, communication, human staff, mind experimentation, offices and laboratories, extraterrestrial housing, genetic experimentation, and cold storage. You think they're storing some human body and DNAs and doing cloning and hybrid creatures? Nightmare Hall. What do you suppose they're doing to people there? You can go get these books. Back to this book. All right. Subsequently, casualties and setbacks led to the abrupt end of the expedition in February. I read that. At the conclusion of High Jump, Byrd commented about his impending trip to the Arctic, where he hinted of a polar passageway to the hollow Earth. I'd like to see the land beyond the pole. North Pole. The area beyond the pole is the center of the great unknown. Byrd's use of the word beyond is significant here. He was not referring to land across or on the other side of the North Pole. This territory had already been mapped out by Arctic explorers. Some of it extended across international boundaries into adjacent countries such as Russia, Finland, Greenland, Canada, Iceland. After his February 1947 flight to the Arctic, Byrd proceeded to give a number of press statements that his plane flew 1,700 miles beyond the pole, exploring this great unknown. Page 96. You can go get this book. Galactic Diplomacy. I'm not trying to do an audio book here, just reading a couple pages. Just something to have a conversation about, to ponder, to get people to maybe look into it. Let's find out the truth. And maybe the truth will set us free. And maybe trying to ignore reality will be our doom. Hunger Games movie type of reality. Why are they trying to keep things from us, the truth? Is all this material, all these books behind me, is this all just propaganda, fabrication? All right, what land was it? Look at your map. Calculate the distance from all known lands. Siberia, Spitsbergen, Alaska, Canada, Finland, Norway, Greenland, and Iceland. A good portion of them are well within the 1,700-mile range, but none of them are within 200 miles of the pole. Byrd flew over no known land. He himself called it a great unknown. He should have seen nothing but ice-covered ocean, or at the very most, partially open ocean. Instead, he was over mountains covered with forest. So I'm thinking to myself, so I suppose if you have 15, 16, 70 degree opening, that's hundreds of miles wide, and you were flying a plane, you could probably go right over the lip into the center of the Earth and feel like you were just flying over land with a slight degree change. Apparently, the compasses and other electronics go haywire when this happens. Even people like Jensen there, who went in there with his ship. Things go topsy-turvy. You get a little dizzy for a little while, according to my research on these topics. Then another answer is maybe with the spinning of the Earth on its axis, it could be some vortex magnetic field, 24/7 Stargate or time portal that's open, and pop people out into some other area. A doorway, maybe. Just thinking. Dave says to focus on truth, you've got to navigate through murky waters. Yep, that's what I think. You got to talk about things that people might snicker at you and ridicule you, and people would don't want to know. Just like 911, everybody is pretty generally aware that something other than the government story is true, and that it enabled all the destruction of the Arab countries, and even with President Donald Trump announcing the USA recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, something they've been fighting for hundreds and hundreds of years. And apparently through my research, they brought us World War I and World War II to bring this about. They were causing revolutions prior to that. So it has some biblical connection to these people and their religion, and some kind of entity that calls it their God and maybe chose them to be their army, their chosen ones. What is this mysterious evil force that seems to have brought insanity to planet Earth for quite a while? I'd be happy if it was a nice, pleasant planet, instead of all the world wars and economic destruction going on, intentional, causing pain and suffering, people dying of hunger, starvation, even in Yemen right now, Syria, all over the Middle East, other parts of the world. Dave says, I think the Vedic cosmology has a giant magnetic mountain at the center. Maybe that's Shambhala. Apparently, according to the compass going crazy, in California there's a park you can visit that you start falling uphill. It's quite bizarre. Gravity has an anomaly there. And of course I've talked about portals, Jacob's Ladder, Project Montauk, Philadelphia Experiment. There's something to this electromagnetic energy, what apparently can cause some kind of time warping. Alright, what follows next is subject to great controversy, but is consistent with what was cited in his earlier polar expeditions. The suppression of information of his second 1929 Arctic flight and events associated with the Operation High Jump. In his posthumously published diaries, Byrd gives a detailed description of one of the ancient subterranean civilizations he encountered during his February 1947 flight over the North Pole. He claims that he was taken into a subterranean dwelling of an advanced race with Nordic physical characteristics. He was shown some of the wondrous technology of this society and also met with the leader of this advanced subterranean race, who allegedly said, "We have let you enter here because you are of noble character and well known on the surface world, Admiral. You are in the domain of Ariani, the inner world of the earth. Admiral, I shall tell you why you have been summoned here. Our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. It was at that alarming time we sent our flying machines, the Frugal Rads, to your surface world to investigate what your race had done." So I guess if you lived in the center of the earth, your roof might be shaking from the atomic bombs exploded above, maybe? Suppose they had equipment to detect that? Cracking the shell of the earth? What's even more horrible than all of this? Go do some research. Apparently, since they started the first two nuclear explosions and some testing, since then they've exploded combining all the countries together all over the planet, some 4,000 nuclear explosions in the ocean, under the ground, above the ground, and some of them high up in the atmosphere. Dave said there's a great video of Admiral Byrd talking about a land beyond the poles. There's no telling what that guy really knew. Thank you, Dave. So I just thought we'd talk about something like this. It's going to kind of coincide with other conversations I have, trying to find out WTH, what the heck is going on. So the aliens, or the Nordics in the inner earth, are telling Admiral Byrd, you see, we have never interfered with your race's wars or barbarity, and now we must. For you have learned to tamper with certain power that is not for man, namely that of atomic energy. Our emissaries have already delivered messages to the powers of your world, and yet they do not heed. Now you have been chosen to be a witness here that our world does exist. You see, our culture and science is many thousands of years beyond your race, Admiral. A significant feature from his encounter was the concern expressed by the alleged extraterrestrials over the use of atomic weapons. Byrd was always ready to communicate candidly to the press, as evidenced from his remarks concerning fatalities and a new enemy that could fly from pole to pole at the end of Operation High Jump. However, after his February Arctic flight, he was subjected to stringent debriefing and told to remain quiet on all he had witnessed. He wrote the following in his diary, 11 March 1947. I have just attended a debriefing and passed on my log. I am now detained for several hours and interviewed by the military and a medical team. It was an ordeal. I am placed under strict control of the international security provisions of the United States of America. I am ordered to remain silent in regard to all that I have seen. Incredibly, I am reminded that I am a military man and that I must obey orders. Byrd subsequently remained out of the public eye until his last polar mission in 1956. This time he led an expedition to the Antarctic that he claimed would be the most important expedition in the history of the world. A radio announcement on January 13, 1956 said, on January 13th, members of the United States expedition penetrated a land extent 2,300 miles beyond the pole. Upon his return to the United States, Byrd claimed, the present expedition has opened up a vast new land. Byrd's press statements appear confusing if he was just referring to the Antarctic region 2,300 miles across the pole, which by 1956 was well known. His reference to a land 2,300 miles beyond the pole was referring to a vast new land that justified Byrd's belief in a world historic importance of his expedition. So what are we to believe? I get a little worn out from speaking. While there continues to be controversy over the veracity of Admiral Byrd's posthumous published diaries, they are consistent with the facts surrounding Byrd's polar expeditions and final years. His report of the unknown lands beyond the poles, missing 1929 newsreel of vegetation and life at the South Pole, 1947 report of a new enemy that could fly from pole to pole, his encounter with advanced civilization when flowing over the Arctic in February 1947, It says flowing. I wonder if he meant flying over the Arctic. His silencing suggests his encounter intraterrestrials. Admiral Byrd's experiences give credence to supporters of the hollow earth theory, to the idea that advanced subterranean civilizations exist populated by intraterrestrials. Those ancient civilizations have been described as Agartha, Shambhala, Telos, and have had a number of authors describing direct personal experiences with intraterrestrials. One Norwegian told the following remarkable story. I lived near the Arctic Circle in Norway. One summer, my friend and I made up our minds to take a boat trip together and to go as far as we could into the North Country. At the end of 1 month, we had traveled far into the north on a sailboat, beyond the pole and into a strange new country. We sailed further and further into this fantastic country. Fantastic because everything was huge in size. Plants are big, trees gigantic. And finally we come to giants. And remember the Peter Moon material I went over? The Busigi Mountains in Romania? Series, let me get the book. The Busigi Mountains, they found a Radu Cinemar with Peter Moon. They found this laboratory in a mountain in Romania. In 2003, a remarkable and unprecedented archaeological discovery was made in the Busigi Mountains in Romania. Hidden in these mountains near the border of Transylvania, there is an ancient sphinx which rests among other picturesque megaliths, giant monuments. A mysterious sealed chamber. Through the highest levels of Freemason and the Pentagon were the people who were investigating this. Anyways, the electronic equipment that could create holographic images was made for giants. The chair you sat in, the table, the equipment rested on, everything. It was too huge. Somebody my height probably couldn't see up to the tabletop. Probably have trouble getting into the chair. So when I collect all this information, and I keep reading these different books, you get these common denominators, and it does make you question, what is real? So here we have this guy sailing with his friend. Plants are big, trees gigantic. Finally we come to giants. I just showed you the Transylvania Sunrise series number 73 in my series. And all these books behind me and another bookcase over there full of UFO and alien material. I've been researching this for a while. A current edition of Nexus magazine, UFO Disclosure and the Media, Facebook Future Mass Manipulation, Time Travel, Multiverse and the Mandela Effect, Is Reality an Illusion? The Rise of Artificial Intelligence, AI. We got a lot of things going on right now. You can go to the bookstore, Books A Million, Barnes Noble, whoever. Get magazines, Open Minds, Aliens, Ancient Evidence. I've been collecting these books for a while. This is 2013, as you can see. And I've been reading and reading and reading, trying to figure out, what should I believe? Here's one I went to one of those antique malls where they have a lot of old stuff. And I saw this magazine, Life magazine, Why Do We Believe? What's the date on this? March 2000. Return to the moon. Sky at night. 40 years ago, NASA put men on the moon, and now they're going back. I just don't buy it. If you look at pictures of this craft, see that craft? That's what landed on the moon. And had to take off. Now think about this. If you got in your car right now and you were in the East Coast, New Jersey, North Carolina, Florida, could you drive to California on one tank of gas? Obviously, not in any normal car. How could they take a 10-story rocket to launch this little craft just to get it in orbit, and then have enough fuel to speed up halfway to the moon? It takes an equal amount of fuel to slow down that it took you to speed up, navigate around the moon, actually land on the moon, launch off the moon, speed up halfway to Earth, and then slow down halfway, enter Earth's orbit, and land, drop in the water with parachutes, whatever. No craft this size could carry that much fuel. It took a 10-story rocket just to get it off the ground. Now, supposedly, the Earth is hurtling around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. Do the math. You can go look it up on the internet. The diameter of the sun and the formula is there. So if Earth is hurtling at 66,000 miles an hour that way, an hour, 66,000 miles an hour, and this little craft was gone for a few days, how the heck would it return to Earth at 66,000 miles an hour? So one commenter says, you can't go back to somewhere you'd never been. So the story just doesn't add up that they went to the moon. And now they say we don't go to the moon because somebody lost the engineering drawings, the scientific know-how. Aren't we much more advanced now? So somebody's not telling us the truth. A lot of talk about these creatures. Open minds. E.T.'s religion. E.T.'s and religion. So what do you think? They're going to bring us a new religion? This mystery religion? This Luciferic, demonic religion? Making these little guys here look to be kind of cute and benevolent? UFO News and Investigation. When was this magazine published? 2012, December, January issue. Fathers of the Space Age. What the rocket pioneers had to say about ET civilization. From Russia with Love, looking at the latest Roswell crash theory involving Stalin and the Nazis. What are we to believe? Why do we believe what we believe? Why do some people research this material? Why does the government try to keep everything secret or alter it and create some kind of false reality? A lot of questions. So I make these live streaming events and book reviews and media and press releasing videos, documentation, documentaries, trying to explore and find out what the heck is going on. So thank you for watching this live streaming event on this Friday, August the 10th, 2018. I appreciate your comments. Have a good day.